My name's Dave Bradley Bowles, and I'm a director at Pure House. I've just spent the last 5 years and 10,000 hours looking at how we improve the way that we build when it comes to building green, sustainable homes. Today, I would like to focus in on understanding what zero carbon means. It's a phrase that we hear a lot of people talking about. Building back greener, building back more sustainably. Zero carbon, carbon neutral, carbon negative. Lots of phrases get bandied about. To really understand what we need to do within construction, we've got to get back to what the actual problem is. So, carbon dioxide, why is it an issue and why is it a problem? Let's start with climate change. A phrase that more commonly was used was the greenhouse effect. The greenhouse effect, it's important to understand. Once we know what that is and how that is affecting our planet, we can start to look at creating solutions and relating it directly to what you will be doing within construction. The greenhouse effect comes about from the release of carbon dioxide into the environment, which creates a greenhouse, a container around our planet, which is causing it to warm. The Paris Climate Agreement is an international agreement between countries where we are working towards preventing the planet from overheating. Consequences of a planet that overheats is climate change, erratic weather patterns, and generally disastrous environment that we live in. We won't go into that today, but we all understand that climate change is an issue, from melting ice caps to heat waves that have never been recorded. So coming back to the greenhouse effect. Greenhouse effect is caused by the release of greenhouse gases into our environment that form this container around our planet. Now, the sun releases more energy than we can even comprehend. And just to give you an idea of how much energy we receive from the sun in any 1 hour of any day, it is enough energy to power everything we do on this planet for a year. So the amount of energy given off by the sun that reaches our planet in 1 hour is enough energy to for the operation of our planet for 1 whole year. That's a lot of energy. Now, what happens with our greenhouse effect is this radiation energy comes in, and radiation energy hits a surface and warms it up. So if you think about a cold winter's day, if you were to stand in the shadows, you'd feel cold. The moment you step out into the sun and feel it on your face, it's a nice feeling. You can feel the warmth of the sun, and that's radiation energy. The other type of energy is convection. And what we see is the radiation energy from the sun travels millions of miles, passes straight through our greenhouse, through the glass, because that's what radiation energy can do. It then warms the surface of the earth, and that energy then rises up, and that's the convection heat energy, which we see on tarmac roads on a hot day, and you see that sort of mirage, that blurred effect, or above a radiator in a house, and it distorts your vision. That's the heat energy rising up, and that's what happens on our Earth. The Earth's surface is warmed up, and the heat energy rises up. The problem with having this container, this greenhouse effect around our planet, is it stops the heat energy from escaping. Now remember, the sun is putting copious amounts, a tremendous amount of energy onto our planet. And it is important that a lot of that energy can escape, because if it doesn't escape, our greenhouse starts to get warmer and warmer and warmer. And by getting warmer, we end up with the problems that we see in our climate, and the climate patterns all changing, and our planet becomes out of tilt. Okay. Now let's just switch topics here and let's just move to carbon dioxide, because carbon dioxide is the gas that is causing the greenhouse effect. So as that carbon dioxide is released into our environment, it rises up and into our atmosphere, and it starts to build and reinforces this greenhouse effect. Controlling the amount of carbon dioxide in our atmosphere is essential to us controlling the temperature of the planet. How the planet was made to work. Trees create oxygen. Animals use the oxygen and create carbon dioxide. Okay. The carbon dioxide is then breathed in by the trees, and the trees produce oxygen. And this is a cycle that goes backwards and forwards and backwards and forwards. And as long as it's in balance, the planet can continue to thrive healthily. There's one problem with this carbon cycle. Since mankind has come along and we consume huge amounts of energy ourselves, we've created factories and the built environments. We do transport. We do so much that consumes energy. And our shortcut to doing that is to burn fossil fuels from the ground. Fossil fuels are essentially all the carbon that's been locked up by trees, for example, and gone down into the ground over millennia. We've then dug it all up. This is a carbon store. We burn it, and as part of that chemical reaction, we see CO2 released into the atmosphere, and it forms this blanket around the planet, reinforcing this greenhouse effect, causing warming. So we are no longer in balance. We are putting too much carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. Okay? So let's just look at the science behind all of this. Photosynthesis is something that a lot of us will remember from school, but let's just dig back and remind ourselves of how this works. For a tree or a plant to grow, it needs energy. Energy in the form of carbohydrates, a little bit like ourselves. If we're to go for a long run, we might eat a big bowl of pasta beforehand to load ourselves up with carbohydrates, to give ourselves energy. Plants need energy to grow. Now, plants can't walk around and pick up food and eat food, so it has to create its own food. And the way that it does that is it draws water up from the ground in its roots. It breathes in carbon dioxide. It takes energy from the sun to start a chemical reaction. If you add the water, the carbon dioxide, and the sun's energy together to create that reaction, you're left with two byproducts. Glucose sugars, the carbohydrate that the plant needs to grow, and oxygen. Oxygen is released in this process. So for plants to grow, they want to create carbohydrates. So they breathe in the carbon dioxide, they draw up the water, and as a byproduct, we get oxygen released. So, for a quick recap then, where does carbon dioxide come from? It comes from burning fossil fuels. It also comes from every animal that is breathing. Why is carbon dioxide good? Because it helps trees to grow. It creates energy for them. Why is it bad? Well, it's only bad if we produce too much of it, because then we're reinforcing greenhouse effect. Greenhouse effect is causing global warming, which leads to what we now refer to every day as climate change. And photosynthesis is the chemical reaction that allows trees to turn carbon dioxide into oxygen for us. And that is where our journey starts on understanding the solutions within construction. We're now going to have a look at the amount of carbon dioxide that we create in the built environment. And then we will have a look at how much carbon dioxide is created through living and using buildings. We call this operational energy.
Great stuff, Dave. Can I just ask you?
Yeah.
Dave, could you just sort of run that by us again? So you said 1 hour of sun creates enough energy for the entire planet for a day. Is that right? And where's that come from? And just want to deepen that a little bit further.
Great question. The amount of sunlight energy that hits our surface, and this is sunlight energy, in 1 hour is enough energy to power the planet for a year. Not a day, for a year. Now, you might be thinking, there is a solution. Solar panels, great, brilliant. The problem we have is we don't understand how to harness that energy on a big enough scale, fast enough, and how to store it. But there is more than enough energy coming from the sun to power this planet so that we can move away from fossil fuels.